All right. So, on Thursday, I spoke at the Museum of Flying. It was a very nice crowd. Ruth, you were there. And I spoke with 9 pages of notes and whatever. And then wasn't it moving?
It was great.
But I realized that when I threw the notes away, when I was done with the notes, it was much more fun just to speak extemporaneously. So that's what I'm going to do today. And I figure that I have a much more difficult job here than I did there because you people are all experts. You know your Hollywood. Thursday night's presentation was all about the other people on the plane. There were 22 souls on the plane, and Carole Lombard was just one of them. Her mother was on the plane. Otto Winkler, Clark Gable's publicist, was on the plane. And 15 Army flyers were on the plane. Every passenger on that plane was there on official government travel of one kind or another. So to me, they were the heroes of Flight 3. I look at them that way. And so that was a lot of what Thursday was about. It was honoring all the people on the plane. Today I just want to focus on Carole. And Carole, the Hollywood girl who grew up around here, who had a house down the street. And I was trying to figure out what I could tell you about that you probably might not know about Carole, because you do know a lot already, and there's been a lot of documentation. And in Fireball, to make Carole's death mean something, you have to know about her life. And with the help of Carol Sampeck, who is with us here today, I sought to give the freshest, most intimate look at Carole ever. And I believe I did that. And Ruth agrees, and Carole agrees. It's easy to misunderstand her because she was loud, she was profane. You need to understand also that she was down to earth, and that the profanity wasn't to shock people and make them unhappy or put them off. It was a defense mechanism because she was a very forceful woman in a man's world around here. So that's one aspect of her that people can sort of, if you look at the movie Gable and Lombard, for example. Yeah, thank you. I think that is a classic example of not understanding who she was, of an actress trying to affect this crazy, shrill woman who Carole said was brittle. And Carole Lombard was not brittle in any way, shape, or form. Hollywood never got to her and spoiled her like it does so many people. And she was, I like to look at her and define her by the 4 freak accidents that marked her life. The first one being her father, Fred, was an executive in Fort Wayne, Indiana, an executive at Horton Manufacturing, which made washing machines. And he was in an industrial accident before Carole was born that crippled his leg, but it also did something to his brain that caused him to have some sort of outbursts that were never quite identified. But they made it very difficult for his wife Elizabeth to live with him. And it got to the point where she had to take the kids and leave. And where did she go from Indiana? She came to California, first in San Francisco, and then she came south and she lived here. And so if he hadn't had that industrial accident, I don't know that she ever would have come here and become a movie star. That's the first freak accident. The second was at age 17. She had just turned 17, and she was out with a boyfriend, of which she had many, because she was a popular girl. And somewhere over in one of the canyons, she was involved in a freak car crash that sliced her face all up, I mean bad, to the point that she was confined in bed for 6 months to recover. And as I said on Thursday night, one of the shocking things, if you were to meet her today, if she was to walk in and you were standing face to face with her, you would be surprised to see the number of scars visible on her face. she had a big scar here, which you'll see in the video that we're going to show. There's one shot that I think is very revealing that shows the scar here. It shows the scar here. She also had a scar through her eyebrow. She had a scar beside her mouth. Her upper lip was almost severed in this crash. That's how bad it was. And that was the second freak accident that helped to define who she was, because she was told you can't have a Hollywood career because you're going to be all scarred up, and you have to accept that. Well, she didn't accept that. She wasn't going to let that stop her. And that was the second thing. The third freak accident in her life that diverted it on a different course was when she was sort of engaged to Russ Columbo. They were an item. Part of the Carole Lombard legend is that they were very much in love and that he was the love of her life. He was killed in a freak accident down that way, where supposedly an antique dueling pistol misfired. Nobody knew it was loaded. It was a photographer friend of his. The ball bounced off a desktop, struck Russ Columbo in the eye, and he died a few hours later. She was at Arrowhead at the time, Carole was, so she wasn't around, and she wasn't there when he died. But it set off a guilt thing in her. She had difficulty accepting. She had withdrawn herself. Russ Columbo is a very forceful human being. He was a space invader. He wanted to possess Carole Lombard. He wanted to be adored by her, and he wanted this to be a great romance. And she was just a little too down to earth for that. And she was just like, take it easy. And so when he died, I think she felt some guilt over her reticence. That was the third freak accident, and what that did was it turned her into the party queen, because she wanted to reinvent herself right around this time, career-wise, right around Columbo's death. She had just made 20th Century, a screwball comedy. There was another screwball comedy she did at Columbia called Lady by Choice, which I think is a great little picture. It doesn't get much respect, but it was an even earlier attempt by her at comedy, this screwball comedy thing, that she sort of latched onto. Her advisors said, you know what, you could stand to have like a screwball aspect to your personality. Why don't we start giving these weird parties? And so in this party house she had down on Hollywood Boulevard, she did that. She gave wild themed parties that got an awful lot of press and sort of established her as this madcap comedian. And that happened sort of as a reaction to Russ Columbo and his death. And that third freak accident also set her up to be ready for Clark Gable, who started in with her. They started hooking up in January of 1936, around the time she was making My Man Godfrey. Clark was still married at the time. You probably know a lot about that story. But that third freak accident was really key, just like the second one. The car crash gave her laser focus about what she wanted to do with her career. And she learned, as she was recuperating, she learned about other actresses and what they had overcome to reach stardom. And she started to think about makeup techniques that she would need. She started to think about how she would need to be lit to minimize these scars on her face. And the third accident, as I say, that set her on this last course of her life, this course with Clark Gable. It set her on the comedy track. She became the screwball queen of Hollywood. And then there's the fourth one, the fourth freak accident, which is really the crux of Fireball. How she came to be on Flight 3. The war had started on December 7th. She was finishing a picture right around then. She finished To Be or Not to Be. I would love to show To Be or Not to Be. It's my favorite film of hers by far, because she is a fully formed, subtle, adult movie star. She is so good in that. She had finished it. She knew it was good. It was a gamble for her to make this picture because it was making fun of atrocities the Nazis were already committing. It was all about Nazis in Poland, and how funny can that be? And it doesn't sound like